Now, the next question was offensive line strength in the running game. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this. I told you guys this before the show started. Clemson's offensive line has proven to me that they can't run block. I mean, they're not a run blocking offensive line. Now, I'm not saying they're a bad offensive line, but to me, they're a pass blocking offensive line, and that's what their number one priority is. That's what their number one strength is. It shows in the lack of sacks that Trevor Lawrence has had to deal with. It shows in the amount of time that Trevor Lawrence has had. A lot of times Trevor Lawrence looks like he has all day to throw the ball. Looks like the game is slowed down because of the protection so good. He's not having to scramble outside a bunch. He's not having to do, a crossbody to scramble to the left throws. He's able to kind of sit around and pick apart the defense. And that's why Clemson's doing so well in the passing game. And so I would say it's a positive that the offensive line is so good in pass blocking. But it does concern me that Travis Etienne returned and the offensive line is doing this. Is basically not helping him at all. That's my opinion. The only way Travis Etienne breaks one is not because of big giant hog molly in front of him. It's because he powers his way, he finds a one-on-one and just spin moves around you, PlayStation style. And that's a concern for me because within 2 or 3 steps, Travis Etienne is by himself. There's no offensive line push at all. So that's a concern for me. The Clemson run blocking, way behind pass blocking right now.
Yeah, they're definitely behind. And I think, like I said, we were actually talking about this just a little bit before the show. And I think they've been that way for years. I think we've been a pass blocking team for quite some time now. And it's never bothered us before, for the most part. I don't want to say it's never bothered us before. It bothers us fans, but it's never hurt our on-field performance to the, where we couldn't win a national championship. We've proven that, okay? So our run blocking has been good enough, is what I can say. But I think for the most part, we've been a pass blocking team. We haven't been able to consistently open up the holes. Travis Etienne is just incredible, the way he breaks tackles, the way he keeps his balance. And he makes a lot of times our rushing yards and our offensive line look better than they are because he's able to do those things. But yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll let Houston get to it here in a second because he had a great point about using the tight ends as well. So I'm going to let him talk about that. But I agree there's some work to be done on the offensive line run blocking wise.
So I think for Clemson and their offensive line, yeah, it's not quite there yet. I think for much of the wide receiving core, we give them a chance of how they'll develop. It's the same with the offensive line. But the other part about this, same with the tight ends. The only position on the field that can help your wide receiving core and your offensive line, if they're good enough, is your tight ends. And if you remember watching the Miami game, the best offensive linemen on the field that night weren't any of the offensive linemen. It was Davis Allen and Braden Galloway. They were part of your best wide receivers and your best offensive linemen. That 70-yard run that Travis Etienne ran was set up because Davis Allen absolutely obliterated one of the middle linebackers for Miami. Just destroyed him. He's a great blocker. And Braden Galloway is pretty good too. And I think you need to set this up where they are pulling or doing something for Clemson offensively that either you're getting them in the flats and getting them the ball, or you're setting them up to where they're just smashing the edge for Clemson to get Travis Etienne. That's when it works. That's when these little draw plays, delayed draws, that's when they work. All right. When you're able to get the tight ends on the edge and they're able to block. I also don't mind the idea of doing these screens to Travis Etienne where you set up all the offensive line, they kind of wait, and then they go. Because Jackson Carman, look, he has times where he's good and bad, but the best that Jackson Carman does is on a screen. He will kill anyone in front of him. And I mean that in a football terminology, but like he got after it in the Miami game. He's good. I think he's a very, very good asset for Clemson when it comes to screen passes. It's just creativity, getting your tight ends either the ball or in a position to get your best playmakers open.
And got chat saying, they don't necessarily agree with the fact that the offensive line can't run block. Well, I mean, we got to go with what's on paper. I'm not talking about them personally, but I'm seeing that they're 7th in the ACC in rushing offense. 7th in the ACC. The ACC. They need to be up there with North Carolina, who's 2nd and running the ball 5.74 yards per carry, as opposed to a good 4.6 But there also looks like, as far as attempts, I know a lot of people talk about they need to get the ball to Travis Etienne more. That might be the case. Looks like they're about 4 or 5 attempts behind your Virginia Techs and your North Carolinas and your Notre Dames of the world, which are, I would say probably some of the better, definitely statistically the better running teams in the ACC. So maybe get the ball just a little bit more to Travis Etienne instead of 47 passes from Trevor Lawrence. Maybe give Travis Etienne 5 of those and give Trevor Lawrence only 40 passes, right? Something like that might be able to help improve the situation.